From TV shows like CSI New York and Covert Affairs to hit movies like Skulls and He Got Game, our next guest is a household name.
And now the New York Times best-selling author, actor, and humanitarian has a new book out, Letters to an Incarcerated Brother. That's right. Hill Harper, welcome to the show.
Great to be here. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for being here.
Yes, this is very exciting. I mean, there's a whole wall of me back here.
All
like
about
that.
you.
That is exciting.
Well, you've done so much in your career. I mean, this is your fifth book.
That's
it's
my
hard
fifth
to believe
book.
that time
That's
has flown
my fifth book
by
and
so
probably
quickly.
my last.
Really?
I put
Stop
everything.
it.
I'm serious. I put everything I have into that book, and that is the book by far that I think the other four books were leading me to.
Wow.
And so that book represents the best of what I have to offer, and I couldn't be more proud of it.
Well, the full title of the book is Letters to an Incarcerated Brother, Encouragement, Hope, and Healing for Inmates and Their Loved Ones.
Yes.
So what made you write a book to this demographic?
So I get a number of letters from incarcerated individuals, and it all started with my first two books, Letters to a Young Brother and Letters to a Young Sister. Those are motivational books for teen boys, teen girls, respectively. And a lot of juvenile justice judges started assigning the book out to young people who were going to youth detention, etc.
Really?
And so I started getting book reports and letters from these young people, and then I started getting more from adult inmates, and because I would respond, and so I've gotten a huge number of letters, many of which the content is presented in this book, and you'll see letters from individuals that are incarcerated, and me writing to this IB, Incarcerated Brother, in the book. And listen, let's be clear. The book isn't just for people who are in prison or coming out of prison. Many of us are in prisons not made of iron bars that I hope this book will help set free. It's a motivational book, first and foremost. And whether you're in a mental prison or you're stuck in a job or you're stuck by debt or you're stuck in a relationship, many of us need to figure out ways in our lives to break free and deal with fear and make better choices. And that's really what Letters to an Incarcerated Brother is all about.
What made you decide to get into motivational writing?
I was very blessed growing up that I had people in my life who helped me and helped me navigate my choices. And but for those people, there's no way I would have ended up where I am. And so I realized that there's so many people out there that don't necessarily have mentors in their lives. They don't have role models. They don't have people that can help them navigate. They may even have people that are actually a negative influence.
Undermining them.
Undermining them, having them make negative choices. And so I wanted to do work. I just thought I was going to write one book, to be quite honest. To be a four-time New York Times bestseller blows me away, because I don't consider myself that. I consider myself someone who just gets concerned about an issue and then wants to speak toward it and do as much work as I can. I mean, the book is a ton of research in the book and great contributors as well.
Wow. Well, knowing your work and how impactful it has been for several people and even saved people's lives, it's hard to believe that your first book almost didn't happen. It was actually difficult for it to get sold, even though you were a #1 show.
Yeah, it's interesting. My first book, Letters to a Young Brother, the publishing company said that, literally point blank, and you want to talk about institutional prejudice, said, you're publishing a book for a population that doesn't read, speaking about.
That's a quote?
Yes, quote. Whoa. And then now, to come full circle, 4 New York Times bestselling books, I tell them I want to do this book, I get a similar response. Your community won't support this book. Who's going to buy a book? Any people who are incarcerated can't walk into Barnes & Nobles. They can't get on Amazon.com. Who's going to buy this book? And I said, you know what? First of all, people care about this issue. People are going to read this book in part because they want to be motivated themselves and they want to be inspired. They're also going to gift the book to individuals who are incarcerated to help them improve the standing of their life as they come out or while they're incarcerated. I believe that our community is going to support this book. I hope you guys out there will help me prove them wrong. Because that's really what this is about.
When you receive these letters from prison, what sort of messages are you hearing from these incarcerated prisoners?
Well, what's amazing is that it's similar to any questions we would have about our lives. What can I do to set up a better future for my family? What can I do to break this cycle, because I don't want to be here anymore? What can I do to figure out a way to make money legally? What are the things? And so these are all similar questions, and that's what led me to write the book, because they're all things that all of us have to consider. One of my main things I talk about, this idea of being an active architect of your own life, and it's the concept that we can all...
Active architect.
An active architect of your own life.
Break that down.
Okay, so I write about this idea that all of us, no matter who, we can usually identify what we want. If you go up to anybody on the street, you say, what do you want? And they can say, oh, I want this, I want this, I want that. Okay, so it's not hard to identify that. What's hard is that when you ask the question, okay, give me the specific steps you will take from here to getting to what you just said, I want. And most people can't do that. But architects, if you approach them, you say, what do you want to do? I want to build this structure. Okay, how big do you want to be? They can tell you exactly how many feet. Okay, how many square feet is this room going to be? They're so detailed with their blueprint or their plan. And so being an active architect for your own life starts with a blueprint. You need a detailed plan. And then we go to foundation building. And I detail all of this in the book in a step-by-step fashion to talk about, let's demystify the process of success. Anybody, I don't care where you're from, where you are now, whether you're in prison, coming out of prison, or you're a mom who's raising 3 kids. Whatever you want, you can manifest it. But you need to approach it like an architect approaches building a structure, and that's where you'll find success.
Well, talk to us about how you built your structure. How do you go from Harvard Law to being a best-selling author and a world-renowned actor?
Okay, well,
Map out that blueprint.
Okay. So first of all, my parents were big proponents of education. And I believe, and that's the foundation piece of building your life. Education, family, faith, resources, access to resources, information, training, apprenticing, all, becoming a master at something. To me, that's the foundation piece. And then you make a decision what's in your heart. Many of us make the mistake of saying, well, I'm going to go to school to do this, but if it's not in your heart, then you're wasting your time. And so for me, I wanted to be a better human being. I wanted to be a better man. I wanted to be a more learned individual, and then figure out, well, how can I serve? How can I best serve the world? And what makes my heart beat faster? I loved acting. And it was something that I got better at. I trained and trained and trained. And then I realized, wow, I'm about to do a profession that I don't even need a high school diploma for, even though I have 2 graduate degrees from Harvard. And that's okay, though, because all of that.
I just love the way he dropped that in there.
Dropping 2 graduate degrees from Harvard.
He might have 2 graduate degrees from Harvard.
Even though
Not big deal.
my parents are going to be a little disappointed.
All that schooling, you're going to act.
Exactly. They're a little upset about that. But for me, it's been a blessing. Because I do believe if you follow your heart first, you're given information along the journey as cues as to where you should navigate. But for my educational background, I wouldn't have been able to publish these books. And I get letters and emails from people every day saying how this book changed their life, how this chapter, how this quote, the quote that resonates with people from this book is a quote I write. I say, you can't be free if the cost of being you is too high. And for too many of us in this world, there's a high cost of being us, whether it's stress, whether it's something that having to do with our debt, financial debt that we put ourselves in, a relationship, a job that we don't love, that we don't like. So you can't be free if the cost of being you is too high.
Wow. And it seems like, you see how he just drops these jewels, like this wisdom and knowledge. Is this what you do when you meet with your kids? Because I know you have an organization called Manifest Your Destiny. Are these some of the same things and interaction and lessons you teach them along the way?
Yeah, Manifest Your Destiny Foundation is a foundation. It's the step before this. What I mean by that is, if we catch these kids early enough, we don't have to worry about our kids going to prison, because there's a direct relationship between dropout rates and incarceration rates.
That's true.
Okay, you can almost lay the graph over 1-to-1. African Americans, we occupy 13% of this country's population, but we're 60% of the inmates. There's something going on, and we have to stop it, and we have to stop it with our youth first. And so we target 8th graders, and I work with 8th graders transitioning into 9th to make sure they're going to finish high school, they're going to get their diploma. If you have someone that actually gets a high school diploma, their chance of being incarcerated precipitously drops. And then if they go on to college, it drops even further. Wow. And so it's not a mystery how to solve the incarceration crisis. It's about getting people good educational opportunities and giving them options in their life, because the vast majority of things people have done to end up incarcerated is money related. Okay? And if you feel like you don't have any options for making money, you end up doing something you shouldn't have been doing. And so I want to create barriers to that, and part of that is through my foundation, Manifest Your Destiny.
How do you go about reaching these kids? Because a lot of these kids, because of their circumstances, their surroundings, they're so jaded, and they're like, oh, life's too hard, I'm not dealing with that. And do they think that you identify with them coming from a family with 2 doctors, your parents being, your Harvard degrees?
People ask me that all the time. And, at the end of the day, people know your heart, and they look at you in the eye. I'm looking at you in the eye. I'm looking at you. And they know when you say to some young person, I love you and I care about your future, they know whether you're lying or not. And they don't care if you came from the same neighborhood they came from, or if you grew up in the same place or on the same block. They just care if you're sincere and you actually are authentic. And so for me, it's never been a problem. I go to prisons or jails or youth incarceration facilities, and I meet with young cats all the time. And it's not about where I'm from or how much money I have or what I have or they don't have. It's about whether I'm sincere.
Do they watch CSI in prison?
I don't know if they do, but I'll tell you, since I don't do CSI New York anymore, I'm doing Covert Affairs. I hope they're watching Covert Affairs.
Okay.
Let's just put it
They
that
watch
way.
Covert Affairs in prison?
Yeah. I don't. You know, what's interesting about it is that there's so many different types of facilities of incarceration that some people have access to TV, some don't. Some have access to this, some have access to that. But the big thing is letting folks know that no matter who you are, where you're from, you can do anything you want in this world if you build it right and take a step back and not wait for the so-called hookup. You know?
Amen to that. Preach that one. Now, Lola mentioned CSI, and we know you were on there for 9 years.
9 years.
How does it feel to play one of the smartest men on TV and then transition into someone who's totally different? Now you get to be the mean guy,
I get to be the bad guy.
violent guy.
So
go from saving people and solving crimes to killing people.
So for 9 years, I played the super nice guy on CSI New York, Dr. Sheldon Knox. It was great, and he was the smartest guy on the show, so everybody came to him for answers. And now, I really talked to my team about the next thing I wanted to do. It had to be total opposite. And so that's what we got on Covert Affairs.
Why the 180, though?
Because it's more interesting. You know, people have already seen you do something for a long enough time. It's kind of boring. You know, they don't want to see me do that again. And it's kind of boring to me. You know, been there, done that. Now, and to be honest, playing bad guys is more fun.
Yeah.
And so, because they're unpredictable, because sometimes bad guys are nice because they have to be strategically, and sometimes they aren't nice. And so it's just more interesting. And this is great. I get to run around with my gun. We just got back from Hong Kong shooting the final 2 episodes.
Very cool.
Which is great. The only problem with Covert Affairs is that they scheduled us at the same time as Scandal. So I tell all my people, listen, either watch my show live and DVR Scandal or DVR my show and watch Scandal. Either way, you got to catch them both because I love Carrie. You know, I was her husband in For Color Girls, and so
you were her husband.
She's fantastic, and we want to support her. And I wish they wouldn't have put us on at the same time, but please check out Covert Affairs. It's a great show.
But in a way, that's a great sign. I mean, it's a great time to be an actor of color on the small screen, wouldn't you say?
Wait, listen, television is really where it's at right now. The best writers, the best content is happening in TV. You know, not to begrudge any films that are coming out, but you know, you can just kind of look at the films that come, and you compare them to the quality of the characters on TV, and you're like, you know, I think I'm going to watch that. And so I think the writing on TV is amazing right now. You know, what's going on with cable, and I mean, just look at you guys right here. I mean, this is great. The quality that you're putting out, what you have right here, right now. This didn't exist a few years ago, and the same thing with scripted television as well.
And you're also getting some more creative liberties. You're
Thank
now
you for
producing.
that, by the way.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you.
Thank
You're now taking your own liberties. You're writing, you're producing stuff, directing stuff.
Yeah.
Tell us about the new film 1982, because you produce it and co-star.
So 1982, it just had its world premiere at the Toronto International Film Festival, which is a very prestigious film festival. We got 3 standing ovations. It's the first time that's ever happened to me.
Wow.
And my mother was there, and she came up to me and she said, "Baby, this is the best work you've ever done, and I think you'll get nominated for an Oscar." So Mama said that. That made me feel great, and so it's going to come out next year. It's a film. It's the writer-director's true story. He's a first-time writer-director, and I think that's important that we support each other. A young filmmaker. He came to me with this project. His name is Tommy Oliver, and it's based on his life growing up with a crack-addicted mother, and him wanting to have this father, who I play the lead, in the home to save the family, and so it's his story, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful story. We actually shot it in his house,
You're kidding.
where he grew up in West Oak Lane, Philadelphia, and it's the first time I've ever done that in my career.
Wow.
It felt so real, so authentic, and I think that bleeds through the film.
What drew you to the project?
It's just his passion. You know, this young filmmaker came at me with a script, and I said, you know, I'll do it, but I said, we got to work together and make it better. And so we sat around, we had table read after table read, notes after notes. He would rewrite and rewrite. And I think that's the mistake a lot of folks make, is that they think you can just write something and then produce it and then it's going to be good. No, you have to work it. It's just like a book. You have to do rewrite. You know, the work is not the writing, the work is the rewriting.
That's what they say.
And the
Good
editing.
writing is rewriting.
That's all it is. And so if you
true.
want something to be great, you rewrite. And that's what we did on 1982. And I hope people get a chance to see it.
Wow.
They will. Okay, let's talk about the Harvard Mafia.
Okay.
You and President Obama, BFFs.
Yeah.
No, you really
Balling
want to
on the
mention
court.
Mafia and the President of the United States together? Is that really?
But we won't mix that just yet.
that
We'll
really
take
how
the
we
softer
do it?
approach.
Let me rewrite.
Okay.
Let me rewrite that.
Rewrite that.
Let's talk about the illustrious Harvard Collective.
Okay, the Harvard
Is that
Collective.
better?
Yes.
Okay.
It was a good, what's interesting.
How many times have you been to the White House?
Too many to count.
Been a number of times.
Yeah.
I really.
Lincoln bedroom?
No, I'm in the Lincoln bedroom. I couldn't be more proud of our president, and he's going through a difficult time right now, a real challenging time. But I'll tell you, he's somebody that gets up every morning, and I can tell you, just from my personal experience, who is working as hard as he can every day to make this country better. He's the same person I knew back at Harvard, extremely hard worker, someone who's dedicated to wanting to make the world a better place. And unfortunately, the one thing people don't get to see is his sense of humor. He has a great sense of humor, but everything that he deals publicly is so serious that it's difficult to show that. But he's a super smart, super dedicated guy. And I couldn't be more proud of how hard he's worked for our country.
And you're working hard with him as well. You've now been appointed to his cancer panel.
Yeah.
Tell us what that means and how did that come to be?
So the president offered me a presidential appointment for the president's cancer panel. I couldn't be more honored, and thankfully I made it through the vetting process. So that was
right.
good.
That's good.
And so I'm a member of the president's cancer panel. What we do is we give recommendations to the White House on policy around cancer. Most recently, we've been working around HPV vaccination, which if folks who are out there, if they haven't gotten their children vaccinated and haven't looked into HPV vaccination, it's so important. Now, young men and young women can get vaccinated. It takes a whole type of cancer off the table, which is one of the first time in history where that's happened. And we're going to see more and more of that. But our cancer panel's job is to make recommendations to the White House around cancer policy. We hear from experts. They come in and present at panels that we have, and then we write up recommendations. It's a great panel to be on. I myself was diagnosed with cancer, thyroid cancer, 3 years ago. And so that's why the president asked me to do it, because I have firsthand knowledge about fighting the disease and overcoming and coming through the other side.
And how did that change you?
Hopefully I'm doing well. There's no wood to knock on.
But did it change your outlook on life?
Absolutely. It changed my outlook from the standpoint of, if we're lucky, we're here for 100, 110 years. And if we're not so lucky, we're here for less than that. And what are you doing every day to make the world better? Living your best life, your biggest life. And that's really the way I approach it now. It really made me take stock of my mortality and saying, you know what, let's not leave anything on the table. Let's not wait. Everyone always talks about, I'm going to do it later. There is no later. Later doesn't exist. Anything you have to say in your life about, I'm going to do that later, you know what? You're not going to do it later. Either you're going to do it now or you're not going to do it. And so let's step up, get it done. And if it's something that's important to you, make it happen starting today.
Wow. And one of the things we can start with is going to get the book.
Yes, please.
It's available for pre-orders already, and it comes out tomorrow.
Yes, Amazon.com, BarnesandNobles.com. Please pre-order the book. Let's prove these publishing companies wrong. Please support this one. And I'm telling you, the content is on point. You'll love it. Money back guarantee.
Oh, I like that. Okay.
Money back guarantee.
Yes. Only here at the Rise you're going to hear that. All right, and we'll be checking you out in Covert Affairs. The season finale airs this month.
You guys keep up the great job.
And
Thank
thank
you
you
so
for
much.
being here. You're
Thank
amazing.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And you're watching Arise Entertainment 360.